made a drawing. Obviously, I'll explain. First, yes, I did draw this in Microsoft Paint. It was quick and easy. I don't care. So there. I didn't say I was a graphic artist. I'm a videographer. What do you want from me? The more important question of what is it? Modern art. What else could it be? It's a diagram representing the modern state of stupidity. If we had to name it, we'd name it the absurdity of modernity. Now it's official. It's art. It has a name. So there you go. This is my theory, okay? It's a theory and a way of explaining, what's happening right now and what could happen in the near future. So in order to explain it, we gotta start at the top. Liberty. That was the beginning. We sought liberty as America. We sought liberty by way of a representative republic. It was not a democracy. It never has been a democracy, and we are not striving to create a democracy. A democracy doesn't work. That's mob rule. We're not getting into that right now. Go look it up if you want. But that's what it is. Inside of the circle, we have people. The red and the blue Venn diagram also represent the people. Obviously, blue's for left, red's for right, purple for centrist. This yellow thing, that's a pendulum. And it represents the majority of thought, like what everybody agrees on, the popular position. The pendulum, as you can see, it's heavy. It's got a weight on the end of it. That means it can be held, but only by a majority. A majority of blue, majority of red. And if there's not enough people to hold it in red or blue, it swings back towards the center. On the left side of the circle, you have the leftist path of progression. On the right path of progression. Leftist ideals can be summed up, but they offer free stuff, okay? Promise to give people things, and the people, love them for it. The state is the great giver, and the state knows best. The right side can be summed up with nationalist pride. Our nation is the best, our people are the best, our government is the best, and they know best. You'll probably notice the big commonalities between left and right. Government knows best. Yeah. Now, if we follow both sides down the outside of the circle, the path, left to communism, right goes to fascism, they both end at the bottom in authoritarianism. Why? Because they're two sides of the same coin. When you get to the end, it's all the same. Hopefully you're with me so far. Now, this is obviously a simplistic representation. You can have different stages inserted at different points on the outside of the circle, different names for it, but it's all the same. And this is just simplified. Now, I use the pendulum to represent the majority because in our country, we have checks and balances that are designed to do exactly that, to check the government's power and balance both sides. Now, ideally, in America, what we would want would be for the pendulum to stay kind of all straight up and down. It'll move a little depending on, various inputs, current events, that kind of thing. But it should always average out as a balance. That's the way it should work. And it did for a while. Obviously, it is not working that way now. The checks on the government's power were removed slowly over time, so the checks couldn't maintain the balance, and the balance shifted. The imbalance was inevitable once the checks were removed, and we're seeing that now. Why go left though, right? That's the question. Why go left? To put it simply, left is a much easier sell than right. Human history shows this very clearly. To embrace nationalism from the start, a people have to be very desperate and also very much willing to sacrifice a lot to the state right off the bat. It usually originates from a place of rock bottom. The left, however, is much more insidious because it can take hold in a much healthier society. It doesn't need to start at rock bottom. It can be worked in as more of a slow burn. The path to desperation can be a longer one. Long path, short path, right or left, they both end the same. The people surrender to their own fear and beg the government to save them. The government is happy to help, but that help isn't free. In fact, you pay the steepest price of all. You pay with your liberty. What's liberty worth? I guess it depends on who you are and how strong you are mentally. Give me liberty or give me death. Who was that again? So there you go. It's a diagram of stupidity in a nutshell. Am I right or wrong? I don't know. I've studied history and human nature for a long time. This is the theory that best fits my observations. And now for the hypothetical question, like a thought experiment. America has been called the Great Experiment, and there's a lot of truth in that. We're, a little bit different than most of the civilizations that have come before us. We still have some protections against tyranny, in place. A few, more like remnants really, but I believe that any amount of protection that still exists speaks to how foundational those protections are for our country and for what our country is. Due to these protections that have never really existed before, not in the way that they do in the United States, written as part of the foundational law for the country. What if things went off the rails here? What if the experimental nature meant we jumped the track, so to speak? What if the pendulum actually moved again in a reciprocal way, as in opposite, as in swinging hard right, as in Americans become so fed up with the current path and the bullshit that enough of them leave blue, go purple, go red, red gets redder, red gets bigger, purple gets bigger. What if that's the last time it swings? Because once you get to authoritarianism, full authoritarianism, the pendulum doesn't matter. None of it matters. The only thing that's there is the bottom, because it's the state's way or the highway. What if we have surrendered so many of our freedoms and we're so close to the bottom that it never moved again? For all of you leftists out there, what if all the power that you've given yourselves and you've given the government suddenly shifted away from your ideology? You think you know what oppression is now? It gets worse. You have no idea what you have done. Why do I ask this? Because it's going to happen either way, whether the pendulum moves again or doesn't. Either way, like I said, we end up at the bottom. But just because the culture is on your side now and the current thing matches up with what you think you're supposed to believe doesn't mean that it'll continue that way. At some point, whether it be soon or later, closer to authoritarianism, once we actually hit it, your ideology will diverge from the government one way or another. It'll happen. You've sold all of us to them, and the contract's pretty solid. You can't just say, wait a minute, government, I thought you said this or that. Yeah, they might have said this or that. They might have promised you things, but in the end, it won't work like that. In the end, you get to see what it's like to be people like me. You get to see what it's like to have a government that'll laugh at you as they run you over. Your naivety, your weakness, your stupidity sealed the deal and served us all up on a silver platter to them. No matter which way it goes, it ends at the bottom. It's not going to be what you were promised, and it'll be far, far too late to do anything about it. We could actually swing far right now, and you couldn't tell the difference. In objectively speaking, looking at the laws and what the government is doing, it's just these little talking points and these little program points that both sides have in their heads that they think are so important. But standing back and looking at the overall picture, you can't tell a difference if it was far right or far left. They're both extreme, and that's why they end in extreme ways. So I guess it turns out that all those checks and balances were there for a reason after all, huh? This is why I'm always saying no forgiveness, no redemption. There are just some things you can't fix. And your sorries won't mean jack shit, because We told you. We warned you. Our forefathers warned you. Our founding fathers warned you. But you knew best, huh? And so history repeats again. Well done. So much for your progress. You don't even know what that word means. You are regressing. You are unlearning facts that we've known for hundreds of years. Regression. And you're also repeating history. And you're too stupid to see it. So you think you're progressive? You are the opposite of that. You know, the thing about it is, man, is I'm all out of good faith and debate. I really am. Grow the hell up and do it now. Good day.